This quick guide picks up where my best Marauder leveling guide left off, and tells you all the key milestones as we transition to using BoneShatter. For our first Ascendancy we go Undeniable. This gives us much needed accuracy and attack speed to help us level much faster. If you're not using leveling gloves, don't forget to pick up an enchant. Once we're done with the Ascendancy, buy BoneShatter from Clarissa in Act 3 and start leveling in a spare socket. Do remember that you can do this in your weapon swap. Now if you find using a mana flask as irritating as I do, then buy a mana leech gem as soon as you can. They are fairly cheap if it's the only roll you're after. You can socket it here early until you get over to the sockets on the left hand side of the tree. Once you've killed Malachi at the end of Act 4, we'll be picking up some new gems. But I dropped a new weapon and that means it's time for the vendor recipe. If you're not league starting this, then a two-handed unique axe will speed you up no end. We're going to grab Brutality from Diala and we'll be switching out Ruthless for it. We then get a Stone Golem from Uyan. Try to keep this up all the time as it's a great source of life regen in the early game. Our 4-link is now Sunder, Chance to Bleed, Melee Physical Damage, and Brutality. Do remember that Brutality effectively switches off all non-physical damage, so make sure you have a pure physical axe from this point on. It's worth remembering that you can use the crafting bench in your hideout to both fix resistance holes and increase the power of your weapon. From Pataris and Vanja, buy multiple totem support. We'll now link both Ancestral Protector and War Chief to it for the nice attack speed and melee damage they grant. If you don't have the sockets for this, you can drop main. Then we head into Act 5. When you get offered a utility flask towards the end of Act 5, choose the armor one. I don't know what I was thinking here. Also around this time we should be getting Inexorable on the tree. Once you get the node, get the 20% increased armor per second while stationary mastery. It's great for us early until we get more decent gear. Now we kill, get knocked out by Katava and get rescued by Sin. All that's left is to sail to Oriath. The first thing to do here is head out to the Twilight Strand where we want to kill everything, and I mean everything. Once we do this, Lilywroth will open up all vendor gems to us. Is this going to be the one smooth run where the boss is the last mob? After hunting down the stragglers, it's time for the next major set of gem upgrades. We're going to buy Cast When Damage Taken from Lilywroth and then pick up Molten Shell and Life Tap. If you buy the latter two from Act 1 instead of Lily, they will be partially levelled. Do be careful though, as they may be too high level to be cast automatically initially. Our last link is Vulnerability. We can now drop Steelskin. You should now also be really close to putting Call to Arms on the tree. Once you do this, switch Enduring Cry to the left mouse button, as our Molten Shells should be auto-triggered. Our War Cries are now instant so they won't slow us down. Also, it's that time again to make sure our resists are up. Fire is the most important initially. Nothing changes now until we get a couple more levels and then go for the mastery. Non-Val strike skills target one additional enemy. It's here on the tree. Once we do, it's completely life-changing. We can now transition to BoneShatter. Drop Enduring Cry and switch into Ancestral Cry. Make sure it's on the left mouse button. Drop Sunder and replace with BoneShatter, and we can now run this setup all the way to maps before switching to the endgame gems. Here's a recap of all the gem links to this point. Our main damage link is BoneShatter, Chance to Bleed, Melee Fizz and Brutality. If we get to the stage where we're not stunning trash effectively anymore, then it's time to drop Chance to Bleed in favour of Endurance Charge on melee stun. Our totem setup is Ancestral Protector and War Chief, linked to multiple totem support. Our Cast When Damage Taken gem is linked to Life Tap, Molten Shell and Vulnerability. Our movement skill is Leap Slam, linked to Life Tap. For our auras, we have Pride and Determination. Do not add Perception linked to Arrogance until you have at least the 3rd Ascendancy and you know your build can tank hard. We also have 3 gems that don't need supports. These are Summon Stone Golem, Blood Rage and Ancestral Cry. For Ascendancies, we want to get our second one, Untiring, just before killing Arakali at the end of Act 7, just before you enter the temple. Our 3rd Ascendancy will be Unbreakable if we have at least 800 armor on our chest. We do this just before killing Katava in Act 10. If we're not even close to that armor number, then get Unstoppable first instead. I ran the Uber Lab at level 79 and it was very easy, so you could consider doing this much earlier. The most immediate next step on the tree is getting the Rage Axe Mastery. Also start to think about cluster jewels around level 80, and this is when we start rolling off the leech nodes here. And that's it, best of luck Exiles. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.